Pam here from Pam's Crafty Corner. Welcome back to my channel. If you are returning, thank you for coming back to watch my videos. And if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you see something you like and you'll stick around. This is a channel where I talk about all my crafty endeavors, mostly cross stitch, some crochet, knitting, quilting, hand sewing, all of that sort of stuff thrown in. So I've been away for a full month. I left and went on a lovely vacation to Australia. Stayed with my friend Allie over there for 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks. Had a fabulous time, just doing all kinds of activities in Queensland, in the vicinity of the area of Brisbane specifically and surrounding areas. Had a really, really lovely time. Weather was amazing. It's like hot. It would be like our version of hot summer over there, but they're heading into fall. And it's still funny to me, the difference in temperature, like what someone from there considers cool temperatures. I mean, and I'm over there like sweating buckets because I think it's very hot. So, had a lovely trip. Her and I would do like activities all during the day, every day, and then come back to her place in the evening and relax and stitch together. We went to the stitching store, All Threads, not once, but twice in the span of 3 days. Did some great thrifting at a couple of really, really cool thrift stores. I got some jewelry. I bought some really cool things to bring home. Yeah, it was a great visit. And then on the heels of that, when I left Australia to fly home, I didn't fly all the way back to Newfoundland. I went as far as Toronto and stayed in Brampton for 4 days and went to the Stitch North retreat, the weekend one of Stitch North for April of 2025. That was my 3rd year, I think. Yeah, I want to say that was my third time. Yeah, it was my 3rd Stitch North, and enjoyed it so much. I have already rebooked for Stitch North 2026. I'll be going again to week 1. Looking forward to it already. So, it's been a long time since I've shown you any of my stitching. And that's my boxer. Hang on one second. Okay, I think I've temporarily calmed them down. That's both of the dogs barking at once. Let's see. So, I'm going to show you a bunch of stitching. Not all of it is in order of when I stitched it, but I've stitched a lot in the last month and a half. So, let's see. Let's start with a piece that I started while on my trip. It was actually during my travel time. I wanted something simple that I could work on the plane, and while I was, you know, that I could see easily as well without having to have a, you know, a lamp or a light on the plane and in the airport. So I had this piece in my stash. It's a bookcase. I can't remember the name of the designer, but I will put a picture of it in here so you can see it. I got a good little start on that, and I'm doing this on a piece of 18 count oatmeal, I think it's oatmeal Ada. And this is the top portion of the bookcase. That's what it looks like so far. I worked on this just on the trip from Newfoundland to Australia, and I slept on the 14-hour flight from Vancouver to Australia, so not a lot of progress, but I got a good little start in on it. So this is on 18 count Aida, as I said, and I'm stitching it with DMC 433, which is just a really warm brown. And that's what I'm going to use for the majority of the bookcase itself. And I'm undecided yet, but I'm thinking I might stitch the actual books using some sort of variation of colors of floss, so it actually looks like books, individual books, not like just everything all, not monochromatic. I'm still toying with that idea. So another piece I worked on was my double Dutch, and I'll insert a picture of it here so you can have a look. I worked a little bit on this while I was away in Australia at Ali's, and I've made it all the way across the top of the border. So that's as wide as it's going to be. And while at Ali's, I finished this side of the border. This is the bottom, right here. So that's as far down as, that's the length of it. Okay. I'm stitching this on a piece of 32 count, I believe this is. I think this is 32 count porcelain from Roxy Floss Co. And I'm stitching it using some Brennan needle floss, hand-dyed floss. So that's that. Just checking the dogs there. I don't know what they're playing with. They've got something now that's keeping them occupied. The Brennan nettle floss, I've shown this before, but these are the 3 colors that I'm using. We've got Samhain, Wreck House, and Yule, which is like a goldy colored yellow. And it's in early evening here, so I may be losing some of the light, but that's it. We're just gonna have to put up with it. All right, so that's 2 pieces of my stitching. The next piece is a new start. This was what I had planned to start at Stitch North this year, but instead, I actually started it while I was at Ali's. This is Teresa Koget's Newcastle Bouquet. All right. And I'm stitching it on a piece of, I think this is 32 count. And I'm using 2/2, and I'm actually using the DMC conversion for this piece. So these are the colors, right? That's the colors. So I'm using the DMC conversion, and this is what I have done so far. So I really like how it's turning out. I'm on 2 minds about this flower here in particular, because let me go this way. My cloth is fairly light in color. It's got a very soft, yellowy butter undertone that's modeled on it. But this color floss is almost identical to the base color of the fabric. So it is the called for color. I don't think I'm gonna rip it out, but just to give it a little more dimension, because I kind of do like that tone on tone, but I may back stitch. There's only a couple flowers that are that particular color, and I may back stitch that just so it's easier to see it. I love how the bird is turning out. I love the red colors in this piece. So I started this one right in the center of the material. Yeah. So that was a good start on that. I worked on that a few days at Allie's. Okay. Then I left for Stitch North, and I had some pieces that I worked on while I was there. So just hang on one second. I'm gonna grab a couple of other pieces. Okay, so when I got to Stitch North, I had a couple of pieces I wanted to work on. Actually, I think I worked on this one while I was in Australia as well, actually, before I got to Stitch North. So this is Long Dog Sampler's Pandemic piece. I'll try and insert a picture of it. I think I have a picture of it. And I am doing this on bright fuchsia fabric, and I'm using black thread. So this is what I've got done. This is what I have done so far. And when I worked on it at Stitch North, before I went to Stitch North, hang on, let me get this fold out. I basically worked completely on this section here. This is not showing up very well, but there you go. That's a good representation of it. So black floss on fuchsia pink fabric, and this one I am stitching 1/1. It's a 20 count fabric, because I actually checked, I actually measured the holes. It is a 20 count fabric, but the 1/1 is actually working out really nice on it. I think the coverage is really good. There you go. I like the effect of the 1/1 on that 20 count. So that's my pandemic piece. Still have lots of stitching left to do on that one. So that was that. And I think that was everything I worked on before I got to Stitch North. Then I went to Stitch North with the idea that I wanted to start a piece while I was there and just concentrate on that piece for the weekend. While I was in Australia with Allie and we went to All Threads, I had it in my head that I wanted to do a white sampler on red fabric. And I had this particular color red in mind that I wanted to use. And I wanted something that was gonna be like a really bright, vibrant red and not a mottled, like over-dyed fabric. Like I wanted a solid red fabric with white floss. So I was trying to find a piece of fabric that was the right color the last couple of years and hadn't come across one. And then I came across this. I found this red fabric, which is very vibrant red. It's actually called, I think it's Christmas red. It's a permin linen. Yeah, Christmas red, 32 count permin linen. So I had picked out which sampler I wanted to do on it, and it's a modern folk embroidery piece, and I'll insert a picture of it here. It's called Fancy and ABC. I think that piece is stunning, and I think it was going to look really great with white stitching on red fabric. So I found the red at this store. I said to the lady, let's figure out how much, you know, fabric I need to cut off the bolt. And it's the only red that she had that was solid red, and it's 32 count. Now 32 count for me is a little too small to do 1 over, unless I'm going to use a magnifier, and I don't like using a magnifier. So I said, well, I'm going to do it over 2 instead of over 1. So it'll be like 16 count. And so she calculated the Fancy and ABC, which is a pretty large piece. And she asked me how much I like for a border. And I said, well, typically I'll leave 3 inches if I'm getting it professionally framed. So they've got lots of space to work with. And she kind of looked at me. She said, well, if you want 3 inches, it's going to be larger than a fat half. Now, like I can't, my brain doesn't compute fat half. Like you have to tell me the actual measurements. Like that doesn't mean anything to me when someone says a fat half or a fat quarter. I need to know the actual dimensions of the piece of fabric. So I just said to her, oh, okay, well, a fat half, well, I can do a 2-inch border or a 2.5-inch border. And she goes, oh, well, if you're going to do that, then yeah, you can fit it on a fat half fabric. I was like, okay. So she went away to cut the piece of fabric off the bolt, and I laid some of my items I had picked up on the counter. She came back with the fabric. It was all folded like this, okay? Folded like this, wrapped up in the cellophane package with the, you know, the name of the fabric and the size she had cut me. And it said fat half, and I was like, okay. So I just paid for all of my stuff after we finished shopping and went back to Allie's, never pulled it out of the package, didn't look at it, just happy-go-lucky, off we went. A few days later, we had a rainy day, and Allie was going to do some sewing, and I was going to do some stitching, and I said, do you know what I should do? I should prep that piece of fabric that I bought. You know, I should sew around the edges so that it's all ready to go for Stitch North, so it won't fray. So I pulled this fabric out of the package, and Allie and I started laughing our heads off. I'll see if I can insert a picture. She took a picture of me with the fabric. So I pull the fabric out, and she looks at me, and I mean, she knows I like large pieces, but this was a bit ridiculous, I think. So she said to me, what is wrong with you? And I was like, oh, you're a good one to talk. She's got, I don't know how many whips and large pieces as well. So we had a good chuckle over that. And yes, I did go ahead and start it. I'm using, instead of proper white or B5200, I'm actually using 3865, which is like a warm winter white. So that's the floss I'm using. And I'm stitching this. Look at this piece of fabric, it's huge, right? Okay. I'm stitching this 2 over 2 on the red fabric. And that is the center width of the that center block in the middle of the chart where the alphabet actually sits. So I started it right in the center, so I knew it would sit properly on my fabric. And that's my start. I managed to get most of that done at Stitch North, and I think I finished off the bottom portion of this after this cross part here. I think I finished that off after I got home. But that was a good start. Several thousand stitches, believe it or not, in that block. There you go. So that was my really good start on Fancy and ABC. It's going to be very big when it's done, okay? But I love it. I think it's gonna be amazing. And I have no idea. I might turn it into a wall hanging. I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. So for now, it is going to sit happily in my whip pile, and I will pull it out as a monochromatic piece and work on it here and there when I have the time. And hopefully I live long enough to finish it. So since I've been home, I've kind of been itching to work on some of my full coverage pieces. So that's what I've been at the last 2 weeks since I got home. So the first one I worked on was my Christmas Carol piece. You guys are all sick of seeing this by now, and will probably be sick, really sick of it by the time I get it finished. But this, believe it or not, is about, it's little over 1/4 done. So this is where A Christmas Carol is. Did I put a picture in? I can't remember if I said I was going to put in a picture, but I'll insert a picture. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And this is it now. So that's how much I have done on A Christmas Carol. A lot of detail in this piece. I still love it. On this one, I'm still working cross country, color by color, finishing a page as I go. Okay, love that piece. I'm still focusing on this one. So every second week I'm trying to pull this out and work on it to try and get as many stitches in this year as I can. I'd like to get another page finish on that relatively quickly. So we'll see how that goes. Then I pulled out my Garden of Delight. So I'll insert a picture of this. And I did get quite a bit done on the border of this. This one is being stitched on an 18 count white Aida. And there it is. Oh, there go the dogs again. Hang on. Sorry about that. They get loud when they start barking. Okay. So going back to this is Garden of Delight. Here we go. And I finished filling in a lot up here. I pulled this border most of the way down here. And instead of working in this in a diagonal, which I was doing previously, I decided that I'm going to work the border up here across and the border here down. And then the center portion, I'll work on its own. There we go. So that's Garden of Delight. I absolutely love this piece. It's designed by William Morris, charted by Hayde, Heaven and Earth Designs. Okay, so that's Garden of Delight. Alrighty, now, the very last piece that I worked on, this is almost like a full whip parade. You don't realize how much stuff you do in the run of a month, right? Or a month and a half. All right, the last piece is my Debbie Patrick Alamo Square row houses. And I'll insert a picture of what that looks like. And it's still in the hoop. Hang on, I'll move my hoop. So I'm actually working on this one now. I took it out the other day, yesterday, pulled it out. There we go, there's my Debbie Patrick. The row houses. So I have 3 houses complete. There's a 4th one that needs to go on this side. And I have to do some back stitching on the house on this side. But that's most of it. Most of what I've got done. I did start to do the background and the skyline and the trees. Over on this side, I'm not doing a very good job of showing these, am I? Maybe if I stand up closer to the camera, there you go. Her designs are just something else. They're gorgeous. So much detail, right? So that's where I am with my Debbie Patrick. And that would be everything I stitched in the last month and a half since I've been, since I went away. Now, so I do have one other project that I started, but it's not cross stitch. So before I ever went away, probably for the last, I don't know, year or so, I've gotten a little bit fascinated with Japanese, a form of Japanese embroidery that's called sashiko. And it's a way of mending and reinforcing garments. That's how it came about. So it looks like visible mending, but it's very neat, organized series of stitches, and actually kind of looks like embroidery. And so there are several patterns that are traditional sashiko patterns, and people now stitch them on patches and sew patches on the clothing, or you can actually sew the design, hand sew the design right on the clothing itself, or you can stitch it on a simple piece of fabric and incorporate it into some other project. When I went to All Threads embroidery with Allie, they actually had some pre-stamped sashiko panels. And my eyes nearly fell out. I was, oh my gosh. I mean, they just looked really, really lovely. So I said, I want to get these panels. They weren't expensive. It's probably a good way for me to start sashiko, to kind of get a feeling for what it's like without having to transfer the traditional patterns onto clothing or onto other fabric myself. These are already pre-stamped with the design, and then you just stitch them using sashiko thread, and the way you work your needle and hold your needle, there's a particular way of doing it. There's a particular way of doing the pattern so that you get the majority of the way through your pattern. The idea is to continuously be stitching. There's a flow to it. So basically what I did was I bought a few of these panels. Okay, I don't have all the threads here. I brought up the blue thread that I'm working with. So traditionally, sashiko is done with an off-white or white thread on indigo colored fabric. But more modern sashiko is done using any kind of colored thread. It's more about the traditional patterns that you're working with. So they had some pre-made panels at this stitching store, and they were huge. They were really big panels. This is just part of one of the panels. Let's see if I can show this to you. I don't know if you're going to be able to see the stamped images because the images are stamped very lightly. But this panel is full of these designs. Okay, with some cutting instructions on the end. That's the cream colored one, which is hard to see. I cut this in half. So there's another couple of pieces. And I started stitching some of them on the plane trip on the way home. So I basically sewed some waste fabric on the edges. You'll have to excuse my phone. It keep getting text messages or something. I sewed some scrap fabric on the ends so that the sashiko fabric would not fray while I was handling it. And this is a panel of 4 that I did. The very first one I did was this one, this square. And I just really love the geometric, simple design work of it. This is a floral, botanical sort of block. Then I did, this one is a wave block. And again, there was a particular way to stitch these. So you would start with the largest wave and go across, and then you work the next smaller wave back and this another smaller wave across. And then there's a way to work your stitches down to the next row, that sort of thing. And then the 4th block I did is this one with the diamond shapes. I just really love these. So I'm thinking what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use these as blocks for either a quilt or a throw and sew them together. So that's one. Then I started another panel. There's this one, which is, of course, the sun is making its way around now, so I'm gonna lose, the light's gonna be odd. But there's this one, which is kind of a cube design, right? And then I started this one, which is not finished yet. You can see my thread is still hanging there. But this one is a circular design. I'm really enjoying working on these because I don't have to follow a pattern. I don't have to count. I just have to be careful about the way I'm working my stitches. So like for the circle one, for example, this one is worked going out and in and out and in, and then you circle around at the bottom and you would come back up and do the inside portions. So you're working up and down instead of working circle, circle, circle. I find it interesting. So I am currently working on those. It's been great because the actual pattern is stamped onto the fabric, and I believe this is a washable ink. I could be wrong about that, but once you've stitched over it, you can't see this anyway. You can't see the stamped images anyway, once you've worked over it. So that's what I've been working on during night shifts. I've been taking it into work with me and working on it there. But let me show you the other panels that I got. That was the only cream colored one I got, and I'm using the indigo colored thread, sashiko thread with it. You can, sashiko thread is 100% cotton. You can use embroidery floss, but if you're using embroidery floss, you wouldn't split it because it needs to be that thickness. It has to be that, it's about the thickness of a 6 strands of DMC. You can also use a pearl cotton, but this is a sashiko brand of thread that I got at All Threads in Australia. And I have an off-white version of this as well. I have this big sun thing here behind me now. I wonder if I turn my camera a little bit. Maybe if that'll help. Okay, so I got a couple of indigo colored panels. Okay, that I will use the cream or off-white thread for. This one is a, I don't know, marine life panel. So these are huge, right? They open up like really big. And on them, they have one big design, which has the design, this one has whales with some sashiko stitching in the background. That's the large piece. And then it has smaller blocks of the individual patterns that you can do, okay? And then I think on this end, it has a large sea turtle. Again, with more blocks of different looking traditional sashiko patterns. So I just love that. So I bought this marine inspired one. It's like 2 panels on one long piece actually. So I got the marine one. I also got, bear with me. Let me fold this back over. I also got a, like I went crazy for these while I was there. And the reason I did is because I can't get these here where I am. I would have to order away for these or what have you. So I took advantage of while I was there and got them. I have another indigo colored one, but this one is all mandalas. There's one side, okay? And then this is the other side. So each side has a large mandala and then a bunch of smaller ones. And then I also got a sage green one. You may not be able to see the panels very well on this, but this is a botanical version. So this one has a large block of flowers, a floral display, with some smaller blocks of floral inspired patterns. And then on this side, the large block on this side is again a floral piece. These are actually, I don't know if these are Asian, but I think these are bottle brushes, which are Australian flowers. Okay, and then again, more floral inspired smaller blocks. And then, again, see, I said go big or go home. I got them all while I was there because I didn't know when I would see them again. So they had this smaller piece, which was pre-cut. That's what it looks like. So I think I'm going to do that as just a singular wall hanging. And probably stitch it in indigo thread, or maybe I'll do some other color. And that's it. So in regards to things I purchased, I got a lot of this. I also bought the sashiko needles and some thread. I got another button and beads kit from Mill Hill to go with the other Christmas Village ones that I have. This is the post office. And then while I was at Allie's, I got some fabric from her. This is from Daisy, Whoopsie Daisy Designs. This one is like a soft gray. I got a couple of these colors. They just look like a tea dyed or coffee dyed. They're kind of old shirt looking. And a piece of lamb's wool linen, which is kind of a creamy color. I think that's a 32 count. At Stitch North, Kaylee from the sewing shop. She sat at my table. She had little pieces of linen done up for us, dyed. This is gonna look great for a Halloween piece or something like that, I think. And I also bought a piece of Roxy Flosstube 32 count linen in this gorgeous mottled teal kind of color. I just love that. I think that looks great. Don't know what I'm gonna put on this yet, but it's gonna look great in my stash. I'm sure I can find something to put on this. Okay. Stitch North was amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. The people are great. The new people you meet are all great. Everyone's there with the same you know, interest in the same hobby. It was just a really fun-filled weekend. Stitching all day into the night. You know, going out for a bite to eat, having a coffee, having a chat, just having a lot of fun with everybody there. So if you're on the fence about whether or not you should go to Stitch North, I highly recommend going to Stitch North. Ever Totes, Caroline's business. Caroline runs it, and they actually have registration open at the moment for Stitch North 2026. They do a weekend 1 and a weekend 2. Both are in the spring. One is the end of April, I think the 24th to the 26th, and the second one is the, I have a dog playing with the dish. The second one is the first weekend, I think, in May. So yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed my video. That's pretty much it for now. I'm home, I'm back to work, settling back into a regular routine after being away for a month. My family's happy I'm home, I think. I'm definitely happy to be home. Enjoy your stitching, and I'll see you again soon.